everyone, and welcome. I'm Susan Smith, and you're in a different corner of my studio, Stitched by Susan. Tonight is, well, evening for me, super casual. I am kind of inviting you into my sewing room in the middle of a project, much like if you were just walking in person. I've got, bits and pieces everywhere that I'm working on. So I'll show you quickly the project that we're working on in case you had not seen my newsletter, and then we'll kind of dive into introductions. So this pattern is called Crimson Christmas, and it's by Krista Moser of The Quilted Life. Krista writes the most awesome patterns, and they always feature 60-degree angles. So I love it because they look complex and intricate, but they're really, really not. Here comes Mr. Producer, so something must be wrong. Oh yeah, the music died.
But I don't know where you are.
Interesting. Hang on a second if you're watching this. So it went live. All the things. Did it even go live? Did it just kick it out?
I'll know in a second. You can keep talking to people. It's live to somebody. I just don't know where.
So we're trying to figure out. So are you seeing it on that thumbnail now?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, guys.
It isn't on your channel anywhere.
This is what live feed is all about. So interestingly, here's what we're going to do. I'm just trying to think on the fly here. Because I'm going out live, obviously you're seeing me, but it's not showing up on my channel. So therefore my regular viewers, for the most part, are not seeing me. That's what we diagnose here off the cuff.
Just keep going, I'll troubleshoot.
Mr. Producer's going to troubleshoot. We may have to stop and restart, but I'll keep going in the meantime. We'll just talk like there's lots of people here watching, okay? Because I know there are at least a few of you. Okay, back to our pattern. Crimson Christmas by Krista Moser. Krista, who does all these 60-degree angles that I absolutely love, because you get a pattern, a design that looks complicated, as this one does with these giant poinsettias, but really isn't. And Krista is also an excellent pattern writer, so it's easy to just walk through them step by step. So this is not a lesson, however. I want to tell you what I'm working with, and then I'm just going to kind of heads down. So I'm going to watch your comments. I've got my laptop beside me, and I just want this to be a bit of a social evening. If you did receive my newsletter today or are seeing me on Facebook and Instagram the last day or two, you'll know my business Facebook page has been hacked entirely. So someone else is posting on there that's not me. And so it's been a bit of a stressful couple days. And I thought, what better way to just fix many things than to just sit and sew a beautiful new quilt. And I wanted this one for Christmas anyway. So that's what I'm doing. Okay, so a few of the tools that I'm working with, and then we'll just get right at it. You've seen the pattern. I've just got a very simple rotary cutter that's on the little wheel by my cutting table here. I'm sewing on my Bernina 770 QE, which is a giant machine and does beautiful, beautiful stitching. And this is my favorite part. I have a Horn of America table, and I got it courtesy of Stitch House in Richardson, Texas. And it allows me to raise and lower my machine so that I can stand. You can see I'm here standing and moving, and I love to stand and sew. And so my whole machine I can raise and lower. There it goes down. Here it comes back up. Very cool. And I love that because I love to stand and sew. So that's kind of the basis of my equipment, pins and things like that, and that's it. So we're going to get sewing. Let me see if any comments are able to be coming in.
It's good to go.
Okay. Mr. Producer's on the side here.
But add a preamble because it was unlisted, so nobody knows about it except for those in the email.
Okay. Okay. I think we figured out what the scoop was, and I'm sure it was me. I'm sure it was me. I scheduled this episode, only I made it unlisted instead of public. So those of you who are here probably came through the newsletter link. So thanks for your patience as I fumbled through this a bit early on. And also feel free to share this with your friends who are interested in sitting and having a Friday evening sewing session too, to get the word out a little bit. So let's just see if any comments are coming in. Lots of you are saying hello. Gladys in Ireland, Diana in Tennessee, Kat in California, Carol, Erin, Cindy Lou, Dorothy, Diane, Good, good, good. See, Erin solved our problem there. It's unlisted for me. Thanks, Erin. Erin's my right-hand man and right-hand woman, and it's awesome. Helen likes my table. I do too. It's the greatest table, and my favorite feature, of course, is the up-down. And also because my machine, it's got the extension that fits right in the table, so I have this lovely large, you can see it, this large flat surface to work on, which is awesome. I think that's the only thing I need to talk about. I'm just going to get myself situated because I took my cutting board off its rocker, and I'm going to get sewing. So like I said, this is not a lesson or instructing about anything. This is just sitting and sewing together. I'd love to know what you're working on, and as I sew, I'm going to chat a little bit, and if you have some things you want to chat about this evening, be my guest. Let's just have a sociable time here together. So I've got a very little of the piecing done in the pattern, and for the most part I've just been cutting and doing some of the sub-piecing, if you will, of the building blocks or units. And so now I'm just working my way down through the pattern one step at a time. That's how I kind of work best. I do have a patchwork foot right now on my machine, which does not allow me to use my little even feed accessory, but does have a really accurate 1/4 inch seam. And I'm quite comfortable just using the side of my presser foot for a seam guide, so that's what I'm doing. So yeah, I'd love to know what you're working on this evening. If you're in fact quilting or some other craft or baking sourdough bread or whatever the thing is. Watching movies with kids. I'll keep trying to watch the comments. Yeah, lots of you are talking about where you found me, so I appreciate that. I know my table's going to get too small, so I'm going to end up storing things in my cubby holes, some of the parts. My table is going to get very small very quickly to be both ironing and cutting and working on it. I put in a new rotary blade special for tonight. And this is how I carry my pieces around. This is all my leaf pieces. Check this out on my ruler, labeled. I like to think I'm organized, you know. The other fun tool that I'm using tonight is my Laura Star iron. I love this thing. Watch the steam. It's crazy. I'm struggling. Maybe if I do it this way. It's just not that often anymore that I dedicate a whole afternoon or evening to working on piecing a quilt, and I am sure enjoying it. I'm looking forward to this all day. In fact, yesterday, my good friend Eva came over for a big chunk of the day. That's when I was doing a lot of my cutting and prep, and she was doing some sewing. We just had a lovely day together. I'm not generally a seam presser opener. However, most of Krista's patterns are pressed open, and that's because you have these slightly complex intersections because of the angles, and the seams don't nest the same way 90-degree seams traditionally do. And so, and maybe she has other reasons too, for reasons of accuracy or whatever, matching things up. Anyway, it works well for her patterns. And so I'm following it exactly at this point. I did choose to make my quilt fairly scrappy. So I bought a few of the reds. I happened to be away from home when I purchased the pattern online. And I was in a quilt shop that had some great selection. And so I purchased a few of the reds because I knew I didn't have a lot of reds at home. And then came home and kind of beefed it up a little bit. And a couple of the reds I actually had to piece. I didn't have enough of some of them that were supposed to be, you know, a selection of dark reds, for example. But I'm okay with that. Ooh, that fresh cutter is awesome. 2, let me see how many I need of these. 6. I do have a little scrap heap at the side. I do keep these little cut-off bits for, I don't know, pin cushions or something. So I've just got a little pile going beside me. And 6. Tuck them in the cubby hole with my other pieces like that. Okay, let's see if anyone has something super enlightening to tell me. Lots of hellos, North Vancouver, Michigan. Janice, taking a break from doing all over feathers on my own queen-size log cabin. Woo, that's a lot of feathers. Deb is working on a maple leaves. I should be putting these up. Deb is working on a maple leaves block of the month for my quilt guild. I bet that's beautiful. Cindy is babysitting 3 grandsons so my daughter and her husband can have a date night. That's lovely. Heading home to Idaho tomorrow. I love this one. Roxanne, I'm ripping out something on my first t-shirt quilt. Here's a little tidbit for you. I've actually never made a t-shirt quilt. I've quilted quite a few of them, but I've never made one. Let me know if my water makes a big slosh and I won't do that. Anne is saying she just tuned in, and I bet there's more people that came in late because of my faux pas in getting this listed publicly. So let me run through it quickly again. The pattern is Crimson Christmas by Krista Moser of The Quilted Life. And as you can see, it looks complicated. It looks like these gorgeous big red poinsettias, and it is, but it's not complicated. Krista's patterns are beautifully step by step. And if you just follow them through, they always work well. They're always accurate. So good. Okay, got some more cutting I need to do. Let's see here. Red 4.5-inch strips. Got all my bits and bobs on the side here. Two. Okay. Certainly my bigger cutting mat would be advantageous here, but you know what? You can't have everything, can you? I bet I can cut 2 of these at a time though, if I line them up really carefully. I do have to get a bit of space for this big ruler, so we're just going to move this over right into the thick of things. And I am one of those odd quilters that really uses the markings on my mat to cut. It works for me. If what you're doing works well for you, don't change it, but this works well for me. Not quite happy with how these lined up. I'm going to back up and cut my strips one at a time with just 2 layers of fabric. I do find, of course, as I'm sure you do, the more accurate my cutting is, the better my piecing ends up being. Okay, let's confirm the angle of these again. Yep, got it. Two. 4. Among other things, when I use the markings on my mat, like I'm lining up my strip with those and then also lining up my ruler, I know that I'm not twisting my ruler at all. It's all too easy to twist it a couple threads worth on one diamond and a couple threads more on the next one, and so on and so forth. That goes into the useful scrap heap. I've recently been watching a lady on Instagram. Her name, I believe, is Sarah Beckvar. At least that's her name on her Instagram feed. And she's in England, and she makes the most gorgeous greeting cards. Sometimes with little sentiments on them, but most often with a flower or something like that that is kind of stitched down with free motion quilting / embroidery / stitching. Anyway, I've been saving lots of little colorful scraps thinking that would be really, really useful for those cards. And I've actually done a few of them, and they are super cute. Quick get through there. Again, if you're just tuning in, this is just a casual evening of sewing on a project of my own, hoping to get it done for Christmas this year. I think I will. And I would love to know what you're working on, because that makes it feel more like a sewing bee, not just everyone watching me. Are you working on piecing? Are you working on some hand stitching? Are you maybe working on something else altogether, like embroidery or crocheting or cross stitch? I feel like I'm going to be here quite a long time doing these 2 at a time. However, I've got nothing but time. This is not a project that's in a hurry, particularly. I mean, I do want it for Christmas, but like I don't have to have it finished tomorrow or anything. It certainly is true that you can be a better piecer when you have more accurate bits to work with. And I will say right here, I am not a meticulous piecer. I think I'm a good piecer and a careful piecer, but I wouldn't go so far as to say meticulous. I just wouldn't. That must have been at the edge of my cut fabric because this end is way too thin. I actually can't get my diamonds out of that. So I'm going to put those aside for a minute and I'm going to recut a strip and recut those later. Okay, let's take a quick count here. That's my, do I have a pencil? Oh boy, I have a pen. That'll work. Reds, reds. Okay. Slide the ruler down. I'm going to stop and have a look at your comments and see what everybody's doing. Let's see. Cindy, that steam is impressive. It is. It's like a sauna while you're working. But it does. Yeah, Erin's saying I'll have a nice steam facial. I certainly will. But what I love about it is that the seams are so flat. Like I don't have to flip them over and press both sides. And I don't use a clapper or anything like that either. It just does such a great job of beautifully flattening the seams. Yep, Janice is agreeing. You could have a sauna with that steam. So true. Dorothy, my current project is Savannah from Stripology Quickies by GE Designs. Karen, I just cleaned up from dinner. BBQ pulled pork over mac and cheese. Oh my word, that sounds like a heart attack waiting to happen and absolutely delicious. Off to attach binding to a quilt for a personal care home. Binding's not my favorite thing to do, LOL. Well, do you know what? You can do it while we're here together and that will be great. Anne is asking about my sewing cabinet. It is by Horn of America, and they have several different models, but certainly I have the model which has a drawer and a cubby hole on each side, and it raises and lowers. And I love standing up to sew. You can see me moving around and standing at my machine, and I love that. So I love the kind that raise. Darlene, I'm in the process of cutting down a tablecloth for a friend. She needs it smaller, but it has a lovely border. I'll probably put a couple of small pleats either at the corners or center. Well, that's very sweet of you, Darlene. Marilyn is putting labels and hanging sleeves on lots of older quilts. Jean, getting ready to quilt the new 1611 Union Street from Krista Moser. Awesome. And Jean's asking for a picture of the pattern again. Absolutely, I can show that again. And it's called Crimson Christmas, and I put a link in the description too. Here you go. I'm never sure if that's right side up or mirrored for you, but Crimson Christmas, giant poinsettias. It's going to be so pretty. Linda, Monday, 3 of my sisters and I are having a sewing day. That sounds awesome. And Anne is quilting my daughter's Christmas quilt. And Deborah was asking about the pattern. I just showed it again, and I'll show it a few more times before we're done. Marion, my current project is piecing a king-size double wedding ring quilt. Wow, that is super ambitious. Susan, I just finished Robin Pickens' quilt top on Wednesday, picked out my backing yesterday, spent 6 hours today helping cut kits and fat quarters for my friend Kate's online shop. So I'm sitting. That sounds like a great thing to do. Carol's asking what brand of table are you using for ironing and cutting? Oh, Carol, I'm using a cheapo, probably Walmart brand, but what it is 2 of the 9 cubes that you can get really inexpensively, and I have a handy husband. So what he did is put 2 of them back to back, and he put a piece of plywood on the bottom and caster wheels, and then a piece of plywood larger for the top, which I then wrapped with a layer of batting and fabric. And every so often I rip the fabric off and put fresh on it, and it's just stapled underneath. I love this. For one thing, it's got storage, which is awesome. Wheels, I can move it around. It doesn't live here all the time. I'm kind of in the center of my sewing room tonight. And also, I love having a square surface when I'm working on quilts particularly, because it just helps to keep things straight. I like having straight edges. Ironing boards, I feel like, are made for garment construction, and I like this for quilting. But it is very much a DIY table. Lots of hellos. Michelle, Adele, awesome. Michelle is listening to me while on her walk. That's great. Michelle, first time to catch you live. Awesome. I'm so glad you're here. Dorothy, oh, this is a great point. Krista sent out an email with a couple of corrections today. That is true. And I don't know if it was corrections or just some clarifying, but I will say this because today is November 1st. This is a brand new pattern from Krista, and she's hosting a sew along for it, and it starts on November the 5th. So if you're at all interested in that, I encourage you to head over to her website, Krista Moser. Krista is Krista, and The Quilted Life. And check that out, and you can, as far as I know, it's a free quilt along. You just sign up for it so that you get the emails that go with it. Anyway, she did send out a clarification today that had some different suggestions for cutting. Although, honestly, I had no trouble with the pattern as initially published. Karen, hello everyone. First live from Bendigo, Australia. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Kendra, yay, I never make a live. I'll enjoy this while I cook dinner. Hello from Missouri. So question for you guys, because I usually do go live what is for me Friday morning. So I'm interested to hear your feedback. If this is kind of a fun time, because I'm only using the one camera, this is something I could do on my own without Mr. Producer. So I'll think about doing that in the future then. Janice just saw the bees on the quilt in the background. So cute. Is that another one from the same designer? Yes, it is. Good eyes, Janice. So the Bumblebee Blossoms is the name of the quilt that's behind me, also Krista Moser, and I've made that one a couple times. I love that quilt. Vicky, Quilting with Friends is the best. Yes, it is indeed. Oh, this is a great idea, Janice. I feel like we need to do a quilt along, all do the same pattern and quilt as desired and have a show and tell. You know, I always feel like it's so annoying when patterns say quilt as desired. Like, what does that mean? I quilt a lot, so I don't usually have trouble coming up with an idea, but boy, that's a blank slate, isn't it? But it would be fun to see if, 15 or 20 or 100 people made the same quilt, what their different ideas were. I agree with you, Janice. This is great. And ironing the backing for the first quilt that I'll be doing on my long arm. Ooh, that's exciting. And Nita just finished 25 embroidered Christmas blocks and made a quilt top waiting on backing. So working on the Moonbeam Fat Quarter Shop quilt. Awesome. Louise making Christmas ornaments, birds embroidered with wool felt. Karen working on my version of the Barnstar sampler. Got started about 6 weeks ago, loving it, and on the last couple of blocks. You guys are ambitious. Deborah's working on a quilt with gift blocks. I think it's called Unwrapped Joy. Feel guilty that it's not a giveaway, which is mostly what I do. Well, I don't think you should feel guilty if you have a quilt that you love and will enjoy. Honestly, Crimson Christmas is that for me. It so caught my eye when I first saw the pattern. I thought, that's what I want for Christmas. I love it. I just love it. Okay, Carol, I'm working on the block of the month from Meadow Mist Designs. I also diamond dots. I think I know what that is. That's where you stick the little diamonds into a big mosaic style picture, right? I think. And Maria, finally watching you live. Morning from Australia. Don't tell my boss I'm watching you. Okay, I won't say a word. Lots of things going on. Linda's making a template for my sisters for Monday, and you're the ones that are having the sewing day together because there's an error in the pattern. Oh, that's good of you. Anne is loading a baby quilt on the long arm. Adele is trying to write the instructions for a block we found online. It was very difficult to make the block from a video, but I think I finally got it. Good. Oh, look, here's my husband. That table was fun to make, about $100 in parts. That might have even included the 2 cubicles. Okay, I'll leave questions for a moment and get a little more sewing done. Yeah, this ironing table I've had for a few years, and it has stood me in good stead. And like I said, I don't even have a heat-proof batting on it. I suppose you could, but I don't. I just every so often strip the fabric off when it gets all, yucky looking and put fresh batting and fabric around it. So it has served me very, very well. Okay, what were we doing? We were cutting 4.5-inch diamonds. Don't want to get so sidetracked that I cut things incorrectly, right? And I needed 5. of the white ones. Yes, 5 white ones. I feel like we ought to have music, but that is a thing I did not think of early enough to attach that to this show. So hopefully you guys have some music playing in your own space. That one's done. Into the pile it goes. 5 tannish white. Lately, I have been so fond of putting a little bit of something metallic in my quilts. And this is one that I've got, I think I bought a chunk of a bolt of. It's just this kind of linen-y fabric with a little tiny crosshatch of metallic. So it's not overly shiny. It's just super, super cute, I think. Super cute. I'm going to try again to cut 2 layers. These seem to be really neatly folded, so we'll see if it works. Well, actually 4 layers. 2 fabrics, each folded in half. My fresh blade should be able to handle that. Look at that, just like cutting butter. Today, of course, I got pictures from our daughter. The little grandbabies were out trick-or-treating last night. The little grandgirl was a princess with, seriously, a hoop skirt. And the little grandson was a dinosaur, which I just think hilariously illustrates the differences between little boys and little girls. Super, super cute. Each of those. Okay, I need to be marking these down. 5 white, 5 tannish white, 5 grayish white. Beautiful. Four light mauve, 4 medium, and 3 dark. Nope, not quite right, you guys. I need 1 more of the grayish white. 1 more. This needs a little pressing. I don't want to steam my pattern if I can help it. We've been getting such a lovely rain all day, and I know people probably think I'm crazy when I say lovely rain because it's been a very dreary and cloudy day. However, the weather has not turned cold yet here in the inland Northwest, and we've had a fairly dry summer, and so this long, slow soaking rain, to me, I'm just thinking of the ground and how it's just soaking that all up before freezing sets in. And to me, it just feels like a lovely rain. Okay, light bulb, 4 medium. Okay, hang on a sec. I gotta look at my other printed pieces, make sure that's a light and a light. So I don't need this one. Because I kind of messed around with putting in my own fabrics in place, it's kind of like this. You have first light red, second light red, first medium red, dark, first dark red, etc. So I have to remember which is which. A smart person would have probably cut a tiny swatch of each one and like marked all these, but I did not. However, I can tell by referring to my earlier work. So these were both a light, so I'm going to do that one. This is a medium. And this is a dark. Pays to check more than once. Light mauve. It's that one. Second medium mauve is that one. Second dark one is that one. Yep. I need how many again? 4, 4, and 3. This little houndstooth check is one of the ones that I bought. So cute. I was over in Snohomish, Washington, close to 2 weeks ago, I guess. At Quilting Mayhem, some of you may know that store. And they have tons of fabric, so that's where I got a few of these while I was there. I just need, oh no, 4 of each of these. I've been raving about Krista's patterns, and it is true. They're very clearly written and they're very step by step. And she offers quite a lot of pictures, which helps you kind of double check what you're doing. However, I still have to pay attention. And just 3 of this one, and then I think we're done cutting for a little while. Okay. Get together all these little corners. Don't you guys love my little thread scrappy bucket? This was my grandpa's pail. He had a maple grove way back in the day, sugar maples, and that was one of his pails. All right, let's back up and do some sewing. Let's do. All right. So a few of the things I've gotten done is these little triangles. Do you see? I've done those in reds, and I've done them in the white, gray, tan combination. So that's one subunit that is done. Just reading here. Red rectangles. Okay, that part I've done. All right. My giant conglomeration of piles here. make sure I keep each flower together. One is quite a bit more red and the other runs toward pink a little more. And so I want to be sure that I keep the correct ones together. So now my little rectangles here go with these. So this is red, 6. So I'm just going to layer these together, ready to sew. Then we'll have a look at a few more comments. I'm a big one for strip piecing. How about you? I love doing a bunch of them, sewing them all at once and then pressing them all at once. Makes me happy. My other ones are right here. Okay, let's see what everyone's doing. Fiona is in New Zealand and it's 12:30 p.m. Saturday, 2nd November, making a pineapple blossom quilt. Lovely. This is my husband. He's a sweetie. Can you all do us a favor and like and share and give this a thumbs up? I agree, particularly tonight because somehow I managed to schedule it as unlisted, which means nobody sees it when they're scrolling through YouTube. So that would be so helpful. And just if you're enjoying this, then I appreciate that thumbs up. It helps me get a little more visibility. Emily M., working from Albany, Oregon, working on my UFOs. June Duck taking a break from quilting a 9-patch, simple grid with a ruler. Dorothy, I'm in Georgia, and it's 7:22. There we go, trying to get that to come up. And Maria is also in Australia. Yes, you're a day ahead of us already, you guys. Oh, look at this. Look at this. This is Dave. Just pulled the ribs out of the oven, got the veggies cooking. Susan won't go hungry tonight. That's a little while till we'll sit down and eat, but anyway. Karen, I have a traditional ironing board and a friend made me a large board that sits on the top. Underneath has a small frame type that hugs the shape of the ironing board frame so it doesn't move. You know, that's a super idea, Karen, and actually I did that for a period of time. I had a little bit smaller board than this one and it had a kind of box around it that kept it from shifting. The downside of that was my ironing board took quite a bit of footprint in my studio without having useful space under it. So that's what I love about these cubicles is that I get all that storage space too and it's just not lost space underneath there. But certainly your method works well for pressing. Absolutely. And Karen is saying she changes the fabric when needed. Yep, me too. Anne is asking, do you starch your fabrics or just steam? Typically, I just steam. I do have a pressing agent handy. It's a homemade one. I think this is on my YouTube channel, actually. I do a homemade one with potato vodka it is, I believe. Yeah, I think that's what it is. And water and a tiny bit of lavender just for scent, like 2 drops in a whole big jug. And it's fairly inexpensive and works fairly well. And I wouldn't say it's as strong as a starch. I think you could put more of the vodka in it. I don't put a ton in, but it's kind of just a little bit of a pressing aid. But typically, I just use steam and it works super, super well. And I do try really hard not to press, you know, or stretch, because that's a lot of quilters' arguments against using steam is that it can misshape your quilt a little bit. So I try to be very gentle with it to begin with and not to push against it at all. And I don't usually have any trouble achieving square blocks, so it works. Judy just finished a large lap quilt for my son. Pattern is Pedal to the Metal. I like that. First quilt I've done on my Cutie Breeze. Not perfect, but it's okay. Enjoying watching you. That's awesome, Judy, and that's a good viewpoint. I mean, whose first quilt on a new frame or machine or technique is ever perfect, right? But it's progress. It's all good. Louise, I love listening to rain as I fall asleep. Me too. Me too. Oh, this is a good one from Dave. Don't forget to put a QQ if you want Susan to be able to find the questions. Yes, I say that in my regular morning show, but I forgot tonight. So QQ in front of it enables me to search for actual questions so that I don't miss them and can come back and find them. Nita is asking, do you ever cut little pieces of fabric and label them before cutting? I find it extremely useful. Do you know, I do, Nita, and I have done it before, and I wish now I had done it on this one, but I was already underway tonight before I sort of thought of it. But what I've done in the past is actually take my pattern and cut little tiny snippets and just tape them on with Scotch tape so I can just visually see this one is this one is this. I've done that with several patterns that had complex designs or where I really changed up what was shown in the pictures, and it just helped me keep my thoughts in order. Patricia, trying to finish 2 quilt tops, one for a granddaughter's wedding and the other a lap quilt for my daughter-in-law. Watching from Aurora, Colorado, first time live. So good, I'm glad you're here. So you guys, this is a side conversation. Dave's talking about the light in the corner, and he didn't quite get it. That little white box that you're seeing right there is one of my bright, bright lights. But you know what? We're just going to let it be. Let it be. Deborah's asking, are you like me? I sometimes read and reread the directions multiple times, and sometimes I still get it wrong. Sort of like my dad used to be he did contractor finishing work in homes, and he used to say, I cut it twice and it's still too short. And we always thought that was funny. But yes. And particularly when it's a pattern that has multiple steps like this one, and particularly because I'm chattering through it, that's why I'm pausing and reading and rereading, because yes, I have to do the same thing to make sure I know where I'm at. And love your sense of humor. Dave, I doubt you'll lose your producer job because of it. So true. Janice, okay, now my next quilt has to be a Christmas quilt, either a kaleidoscope or beads. Now, what do you mean by beads, I wonder? Chain piecing makes Louise happy too. Dorothy, obviously I'm going to have to tidy up my table to make room for all these bundles. Too true. Lauren, food sounds delicious. Yes, it does. It smells really good too, but I don't have smell-o-vision, so I can't let you smell it. Marilyn was asking, who was the greeting card maker? Her name is Sarah Bekovar, and I think it's B-E-C-O, and I watch her on Instagram, so I know that she's there. Does Sarah have an A-H? I have no way of looking that up for you. I have no way of looking it up for you, but see if you can find her with that, and let us know in the comments if you do, if you're looking right now. That would be great. Candace, couldn't decide if you were really live. Would that have been at the beginning because we weren't sure if we were actually going live? That's the way it goes, you guys. M. Robert, I'm seeing 2 selvages together. Should I cut the selvages off? Yes. In my opinion, you always want to cut the selvages off, and you don't want any of that white bit to show. Like sometimes I'll leave a whisker on there, but it's always definitely going to get trimmed off in the seam allowance. So you don't have to cut it off first, but make sure it gets trimmed off and is not in your useful piece. So wherever you saw me leave it on a piece, that might have been the pieces I was throwing on the end. Those aren't actually going in the quilt. They're scraps that I'll use in something else. Lauren, I haven't been able to do much piecing or quilting lately, having neck and nerve issues that I'll get an injection in late December, so no Christmas gifts this year that I'll be able to make. I mean, that's sad, but I wish you well in your recovery, and I hope that you can find I know there are other ways. Reading books, and actually this is one thing I'm going to try and do this coming week for our little grandbabies. Like, shh, don't tell them. But my husband created another YouTube channel, like a private one, and I'm actually recording some books on there for them that they can listen to Nana reading their books whenever their mom will connect to YouTube. So that might, I mean, I don't know if you have little people in your life or anyone that would enjoy that, but just throwing that idea out there. Quilting on, praying for you, Lauren. So good. Oh, here we go, Janice. Beads look like strings of large and small diamonds. The pattern I was using was called beads. Okay, got it, got it, got it. Angela Robichaux, I'm late, but I found you. Awesome. Okay, you know what? Because I did have such an awkward start, and I know lots of you had trouble finding me, I'm going to go over the pattern again. It is Crimson Christmas, this gorgeous, gorgeous design, and I'm sorry it's very dark, but you get the gist of it, by Krista Moser, The Quilted Life. And it's her brand new pattern that just came out. I got the jump on it. I'm starting already this week. I know she is hosting a free sew along. Just join in the community that starts on November the 5th, so next week. So if you're interested in that, just look up Krista Moser, The Quilted Life. Look for the Christmas quilt, Crimson Christmas, and you'll find details on that. Okay, you guys, got to get some sewing done. Alrighty, we're going to sew some of these triangles together. These poinsettias are very cool. Like, I browsed through the pattern before I started into it, and they grow. You start with the smallest pieces and the smallest areas in the middle, and then they just get bigger and bigger and bigger. It's very cool. So I'm stitching, as you see, standing up, which is my favorite way to sew. And I'm stitching at my Horn of America table that was given to me courtesy of Stitch House, which is a quilt shop in Richardson, Texas. And I love this table. So it has the hydraulic lifts where I can pop it up and down, depending on what I'm doing. There are certain things I like to sit for example, putting binding on when I want the quilt to rest in my lap. But when I'm sewing, I love standing to sew. You can maybe see that I'm using my seam ripper. I just treat it like a stiletto, particularly when I'm sewing on triangles or things that have little points that kind of want to get away from you at the end of a seam. It just helps me in all kinds of ways to guide my sewing. And I never know where the stiletto is, but I always know where the seam ripper is, so it works for me. I just had my nails done this afternoon, and don't you know they match my Christmas quilt. 'Tis the season. Oh, caught the corner there a little bit. Tuck that back in place. So today being Friday, the final banking day of the week, I was just buttoning down the last of our banking and reservations for our upcoming cruise. If you haven't heard me talking about this already, let me give you a brief overview. Dave and I are hosting a machine quilting cruise in January. January 18 to 25. It's in the Caribbean. And so on the 3 at-sea days, we're going to have classes on machine quilting, particularly long arm quilting, I would say. So I'll be teaching some. Beth Ann Nemish is one of my guests, and also Sam Alberts. So between the three of us, we have a pretty broad range of styles and certainly a depth of skill. And so we're going to pack those lessons with lots of good information. Unlike other quilting cruises, this is not hands-on. We simply can't take that many long arms on a cruise. So we will be delivering all the lessons lecture style and with an overhead big screen view and recording them all. So you get to take all of the lesson material home with you for a period of time, months, in order to watch and rewatch at your leisure. So we have, I believe, 6 tickets left for the cruise, and they are all only double occupancy. So you need a buddy, or you need to get on our, we do have a connections spreadsheet out there where those who are by themselves can find another person who might want to share a room. So let me just type, I don't know if I can here. Yes, I can. I'm just going to type the website into the chat. Maybe Dave will do that for me. I'll type it in once. He'll put a link on there, I'm sure. And Janice is asking, it doesn't look like you have the dual feed engaged, but you have a dual feed foot on. How come? Oh, Jean is asking that. I'm sorry, Jean. Jean, that would be because I have not done very much sewing on this machine, and I had no clue that this was a dual feed foot. So, if you're able to tell me by chatting how to do it, I will. Failing that, I could run out into my hallway and get my manual and actually look it up. I have the little informational sheet for this foot, which I just put on yesterday. And it does not say anything about dual feed. It just calls it a patchwork foot. Now let me just double check, make sure I'm not stating that incorrectly. It's in 1,000 languages, but there's only a few for each. Oh, yes, it does. Engage the Bernina dual feed. Okay. Hang on a sec. Okay, I'm going to see if you're typing that in, Jean, because it might be faster. You're not. So I'm gonna run and get my manual. You guys bear with me half a sec. This is how sewing goes for me. And I'm such a creature of habit. I have pieced on the same little sewing machine for so many years. And now I have this fancy Bernina one, and I don't know how to use half the things that it has for me. Hang on a sec. I'm gonna be right back. I'm just gonna grab my manual here. Because why not? Let's learn this together. Dual feed. The front index or the back one? Let's see. Probably the back one. I realized that I can't lower this. Maybe I can. Hang on a sec. Dual feed is not in my back menu, you guys. Now what? I'm just scanning. Regulating. Okay, I'm seeing if someone's typing this in. Pull the dual feed down and just let it hook into the back slot on the foot. Okay, so maybe then, here, I know how to do that, I guess. I was thinking that this only worked on, I think I have to be not stitching when I do it. I was thinking that this only worked on the other foot that I had on, which was the, was it the 1/4 inch foot? I forget what it was called even. I'm that ignorant about it. Let me just get to the end of this. Break thread, to use a long arm term. Okay, and now we'll engage that. I do know how to do that. Perfect. Okay. There is something I know, and I think that probably came to light the last time I was doing a live episode at my machine, and I think someone told me then that I had a Cadillac and I was driving it like a Pinto, and we all had a good laugh over that because that's the truth of it. So now I'm just snipping all my little chain pieces apart. Okay. Pressing time. We got to make room where we don't get our pattern all wet. My rotating board came apart again. What did I do wrong? Come on. go. Got it. So again, I mentioned earlier, Krista does suggest on her patterns, at least on this pattern, to press the seams open. So I'm taking her at her word. I assume that she knows more about this pattern than I do. And it certainly does result in really nicely flat seams. And I know already that I'm not going to custom quilt it. I don't need ditches in my seams. I'm perfectly happy if they lay beautifully flat, because I'm going to do some type of edge-to-edge quilting on it anyway. Because I am a long armer, I'm always thinking about the quilting, even when I'm starting the piecing. It's just the way my head works. See how beautifully flat that is? Like, it is just so crisp and flat. I love that. Just with one pass of the iron. I'm a super fan. This is just so pleasant, you guys. Just a relaxed evening. I've got a candle burning off to the side. You can hear it flickering just a little bit. Thank you for spending the evening with me. And I promise I'll keep sharing this quilt as it progresses, and if in fact I do get it finished before Christmas, I'll try and make the quilting the project on one of my Friday morning lives, so that you can see the quilting too. Well, I feel like talking about this dual feed, it's kind of a funny thing. I have spent a fair bit of time over the last couple years traveling to quilt shows and to dealerships for Bernina, like the Houston Quilt Festival last year and Bernina University and things like that. And what happens is there are other educators there teaching all these machines. So there are people there who know everything about the 770 or about the 890 serger, which I also have. But because I'm there teaching the long arm, I never get to attend those classes. So I feel at a little bit of a disadvantage, honestly, because there are a lot of you out there that know a lot more about these machines than I do, the sewing machines in particular. So I feel like one of you needs to get out there and do a live show like this so that I can come and learn about the machines. Okay, so there's our shape. It is one size bigger. And let's see what comes next. I think our triangles that we cut, but how do we know which goes first? I'm just going to read ahead so I see where I'm going, right? I did this one and I did this one. Okay, there's one set of diamonds I actually missed cutting, so I got to get that one done. So let's bring this back out. I wondered, I saw this wide red piece and I thought, yep, I'm short one print. Okay, I have so many things on here, it's not even funny. Oh my goodness. So here's where I'm trimming my selvage off, to the person that asked earlier about that. And this is just going into my save for later scraps pile. And now my actual diamonds don't have any selvages on them. And this was a width of fabric strip that I've got still folded in half. So I'm cutting 2 with each swipe. And I just need 4 of this print, this fabric. Okay, that goes in my use later pile. All right, now we've got to do some piecing together of these chunks that I was tucking under there earlier. So this is some of the sub piecing units, and now they go with my black unit. So this is one of the changes that I made. I don't know if it'll show up on camera or not. Krista's pattern calls for a black background, and I got something which is not a grunge, because you might be familiar with that name. I don't have a selvage here to tell you which one it is, but it's just a different fabric manufacturer, but a really dark charcoal. I just like the liveliness of having not a solid matte color. So that was my choice. Okay, let's do the reds first. So we need 4 reds. 3 reds and 4 blacks. 1. Let's get different ones. 2. 3. 4. Cut these strip sets. Those are the 3 I choose for this rendition, and 4, 3, 4. All right. Let's see if we got any great comments going. Jean, I hope you're proud of me. Raise the foot. Yeah, got it eventually when I cut my thread. Louise, I'd love to join you on a cruise, but I vowed I'd never go on a boat on the ocean again due to motion sickness. How about doing a retreat on land? You know, funny story, Louise. When I initially kind of had this idea of doing something, you know, with some guest teachers for quilters, I initially was thinking of doing it on land. Excuse me. But if any of you have ever planned an event, you'll get how this looked in my mind. I started thinking about the logistics of, you know, where we were all going to stay, and then arranging the food, and then arranging, you know, where would we go that's convenient for people to get to, you know, by plane or by land or whatever, all the logistics. And it was Dave that actually said to me, like, why don't you just do a cruise and let the boat do all that planning of meals and activities and extra entertainment and all the things? And you're right, Jean, and whoever else has been commenting, that dual feed foot is awesome. Somehow I had in my head that did not work with this. I don't know why. I thought it only worked with the one specific foot, the wider one. I want to show you guys this. This is how Susan makes quilts. Didn't have quite enough of this super dark red, but really liked it and wanted it to be part of my flower. Put an extra seam in the back. You can't tell. It's kind of funny because I quilt for a lot of other people. I actually see a fair number of quilts that have that done to it. And it always kind of makes me smile, and yet I'm glad, because I'm like, quilters know how to problem solve. Don't tell me I have to run to the fabric store and buy another piece of fabric. No, I'll just put a couple scraps together and it'll be good. I'm just wondering, I think these reds were all supposed to go the same direction. Oh, shoot. Oh, my husband's moving stuff. Bless his heart. Okay, I gotta check these. Dave, can you help for a sec?
Yeah.
Mr. Producer's coming to help me. I either minimized or something that brought up my Chrome screen. I can't do this without him. I really can't. Okay, sorry about that, you guys. Getting in the way of the camera view. Jean, especially on Krista's bias edges, it really helps. Yep, sure does. And to the person who asked about starching earlier, I'm sure that would help too. But to me, this comes under the heading of I'm a good piecer, but not a meticulous one. I'm just not. I do want to get the quilt done. Okay, I just need to make sure that my dark bits are orientated the same way. They are. And this one needs to turn. Got it. One too many of those. There's certainly a big difference between the light colored and the darker fabrics on this quilt, so I'm starting to think that I maybe want to, since I have light thread loaded, I think I'm going to stop on my dark poinsettias for a little bit and work on the light ones and on the leaves even, and or change thread color. But let's work on the light stuff for a little bit, and then I'll probably put a darker thread in. Here's my little pieced piece. Nobody will ever know if you don't tell them. Beautiful. Now this one gets all subcut by taking the diamond ruler, right, and lining it up to seams and cutting diamonds on there. But we're going to save that for our darker thread. And we're going to move on to working on the lighter bits for a little bit. Unless it all connects to dark, let's see. Well, let's see how it's looking. What do you guys think? The thing is, I end up with my light fabrics against the dark charcoal, and I can't do the black thread in that, I don't feel like, because it would show on these, or even a dark gray. So I almost feel like I'm going to stay with my stone. It's definitely not white, and I've got good tension, so it's not showing unless I really pull on these seams. And all the red fabrics have lighter tones in them too. I think I'm just going to proceed. Okay. Next step then, we have more of these with red again. Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 3. So another strip like that one that I just did. Let's see if there are any interesting comments coming up. Cindy is asking, what is the brand of your iron again? It's a Laura Star, all one word, Laura Star. On most of my YouTube episodes, I include a link for it with stuff I use. You can find it at the bottom. I'm having trouble with my mouse here. There we go. Okay. Lots of you are chiming in about the foot and the water bottle. So thanks for that. Thanks for being gracious. And Jean has just educated me. All D feet work with dual feed. And see, I feel like I did know that. I just didn't clue in. Yeah, the patchwork foot is a 97D. Okay, good. I've learned something new. This is great. Okay, Nita. By a sewing tip, I learned the hard way that unless I starch my fabric once top is sewn together, I got tenting. I had to starch heavily to get it to lay down so I could quilt the quilt. That's so interesting, Nita. And I can understand what you're saying. If you've got pieces that have bias edges, once you get a bigger quilt, it starts, tenting on you. I haven't done huge ones, I guess, but like I said, I've done several of the Bumblebee Blossoms that is behind me, and I've made numerous of Krista's patterns with pretty good success. So I'm going to keep going because it's working for me. But that is a great tip. I agree. Janice does a lot of piecing with medium gray. And that's a super idea, Janice. I tend, I guess, to make lighter quilts, so I tend to use this sort of natural stone. And I do have medium gray thread handy, but I don't have another bobbin within reach. And you guys can't see this, but I'm kind of boxed into a corner here with my stitching. So I'm just going to keep going as is. Unless I see evidence that it's showing in places that I don't want it to show, I'm going to keep proceeding. For those who may just be tuning in, I'm working on a pattern by Krista Moser, The Quilted Life, and it is called Crimson Christmas. It is a very non-traditional Christmas quilt, but absolutely gorgeous. I think I was only supposed to do 3 reds. How come I had 4, you guys? There is only supposed to be 3 reds. Oh, for gosh sake. 4 charcoals and 3 reds. Somewhere in there I had a spare. We'll just undo one of those. That red, I believe, is an extra. That's what a vacuum is for. Cleaning up all those floofy bits. Okay, leave that one there. These two together. And stitch from the red side. As you can see, I'm not a massive pinner. If I have enough fingers and they can reach far enough to hold it all in place, that works for me. It's part of the reason I love having this giant table surface, because you can see all the way to the end of your seam. Line things up. Yep, that's it right there. Okay, checking my quantities again. So I need one more set like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 3 reds this time. I don't feel like I have enough blacks because there's got to be a white set too. Well, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Certainly a pattern like this that's got, you know, many multiples of different things is trickier for me anyways to cut in advance than one that just says cut so many strips and then cut so many squares. How are you guys progressing on your projects at your end? These are among the scrappy reds, and both of these came from a bin that I got from our pastor's wife years ago. She did more quilting and has kind of not done it so much lately, so she brought me this ginormous tub of bits, and both those reds came from that tub. I honestly love using fabrics that way. Just, it's so, the quilt is so special then when it's done. Positive, I need 3 more of those charcoal pieces. I'll press this and then we'll quick have a peek at what everyone else is working on in their projects and how they're coming along. Getting my sauna in again. This This iron is a great little steamer of clothes too, as you can imagine, seeing it at work. If you missed me saying it earlier, it is a Laura Star. All one word, that's the brand. I should show you the part of it that you can't see. It's got this little lift, it's called, like so. So it has a tank of water on the side that holds, oh, probably 4 cups or thereabouts. So it lasts quite a long time between fills. So there's that one. Okay. Now this one that we're working on here. Let's see what everybody's doing. Keep turning my mouse upside down. Silly me. Nita, it took me forever to figure out why it was tenting. Yeah, we were talking about, you know, steaming, not steaming, starching, not starching. And when you do have these edges that are angled, that are bias, that is the risk, is that as your quilt gets larger and larger, you start getting ripples, or tenting as Nita calls it. So she has found she needs to starch. Luda is saying, how beautiful that quilt on the wall. Thank you. So it's called Bumblebee Blossoms, and it is by the same pattern designer. Tonight's is Crimson Christmas. And Krista Moser, The Quilted Life, is the pattern designer, and also of the Bumblebee Flower one. Jennifer, I have a bumblebee quilt my mom made for me for Christmas last year. She said it's the only bee I'm allowed to touch. I'm very allergic. I love that. That's pretty sweet. Lauren is saying, if your thread is showing, this is a great tip. How come it didn't come up there? There we go. Shorten your stitch length. I have leftover ends of bobbins and use all colors of thread by just making a shorter stitch length. That's a really good point, actually. And I feel like if the thread is represented on one side or the other of the seam, I'm pretty okay with that. We'll see how it looks when I'm stitching, you know, 2 black pieces together or 2 dark green. I don't ever want that to show up even when I'm quilting it, but this is Mr. Producer. I'm losing at cards upstairs. Better wrap up the stream and come help me. He wishes. And I'm sorry about the water bottle, you guys, but it's fixed now, so. And I love this. I'm sitting here watching you and doing absolutely nothing. Loving every minute. So good. M. Robert is saying, piecing my batting, should it be stitched? You know that I'm a quilter, so you know I've pieced my batting. I don't typically stitch my batting, but there's a couple things that you need to think of before you don't do it. One is I like to overlap my battings and then cut a wavy line and then really butt them up firmly against each other. I don't want a fold line where it will pull apart if I fold the quilt right there. Does that all make sense? So that's thing number 1. And thing number 2 is, if you don't want to stitch the batting together, you've got to have fairly close quilting, like I would say 1 inch or less. If you have looser quilting, then I think you need to stay stitch it or zigzag it or in some way attach those edges together. Jan, I've been making twin-size scrap quilts to donate to Women's Crisis Center. I've done 13 so far. Good for you, Jan. That's awesome. Marion, on my king-size quilt, chain piecing for days has taken on an entirely new meaning. I love that. Joelle, I'm finishing the Mountains Are Calling quilt, just finishing up the fox. The Mountains Are Calling is one that I've made too, and love that quilt. Yeah, I know exactly which one you're talking about, by Janet Nesbitt. I don't know why I'm so parched tonight. Keep drinking my water. Okay, back to my pieces. piece on the other end. I need a little bit longer leader and ender. I have a hard time cutting it. Okay, there's that one. So I need to do that same thing yet with these white ones, but I don't have enough of the charcoal, so I'm going to leave that one because I would have to go into my other room to cut that, and I don't want to do that. Let's just move on. I'm going to decide, because I know that they're pretty straightforward, we're going to work on the leaves for a bit because we must be an hour in, yes? We must be. There's the time. Oh gosh, yes. So I'm going to work on the leaves for a little bit and then we'll see where we're at for time then. So the leaves, this is very, very cool, you guys. Oh, so many piles. So many piles. That can be saved for later. These are my leaves. Let's see if we can get these all to be picked up in one piece. Yes, I can. Look at my leaves. All on my big ruler. So what I did is I cut these because there are a lot of pieces and they're kind of assembled a bit like a log cabin-ish. I cut them and then I labeled them, and this is my low-tech way of labeling. I have little tiny squares of fabric with numbers on them, and I have numbers 1 to 8, and I needed a 9, so 9 didn't get a digit, but I thought I can remember that. And I just keep these. When I'm all done, I just put a pin through the whole stack and put them in my pin cushion, and I just keep them and use them all the time. I know you can get numbered pins, but I don't happen to have any. So that's what I'm doing. So, not surprisingly, we're going to start with piece number 1. And I think, I'm wondering, I've kind of got them cut randomly, and I feel like I could lay out 3. Are there 6 leaves? I think so. Hang on a sec. Let me see. No, there's just 3 leaves. Oh, piece of cake. We're going to go ahead and lay them all out, so I'm sure I've got my greens kind of randomized. That's what we're going to do. I feel like, why would there be 6 centers though? You will make 6 blocks like this. Keep the greens varied throughout. Oh, I see why. Got it. There are 6 blocks. So we're going to do a group of 3 because I have 3 different green prints. So we'll do 3 that are alike, and then we'll have 3 that remain that will be alike also. Let's see if I can make room for this. 1, 2, and 3. This can be right at the bottom. Okay, then we have the little dark bits. And they're all the same, so there's no fussiness there. And what I'm going to do is just keep them in order on my ruler. Then I know what's what. Number 3. Dark bits on the other side. I'm going to run out of room on that one. Let's pull it down here. And if I'm confident that I can stitch these all together without getting two like greens side by side, then I'm going to go ahead and start stitching them because this is going to get huge. I can see that already. But let's just see how it works. That side and then that side. That's the right order. That does not seem like the right angle. It's not. Do I have 3 one way and 3 the other? Aha. Aha. Okay, hang on a sec here. This might involve a little bit of recutting. Here we go. Yep, it will. Okay, I'll tell you what I did so that you won't make this same mistake when you start working on your quilt. I cut my trusty little green leafy bits in pairs, right? Wrong sides together and in pairs. And Krista does say on the pattern, you know, these need to point to the left or these need to point to the right. And I did that correctly with my ruler, but of course I've got a mirror image in here. So what that means is I've only got enough for 3 leaves correctly cut, and I'm going to go have to cut the other 3. And I can see that as soon as I start laying them out, right? That one works, this one did not work. So can you see that there? Doesn't work. So we'll take out the 3 that are duds. That's the right one. And they'll have to get recut. Okay, so we're only going to have enough to make 3 leaves, and that's fine. Now I want to mix up my greens. So we're going to put that one there. That one there. That one there. And I'm worried the same thing is going to happen with these, but I think I could do mirrored leaves. I just wonder. I'll think about that when I get to the next 3 leaves. That's what I'll do. And again, I want to make them different. See, that one's not right. That one's not right. Hang on a sec. It's got to be this one. You guys probably saw that already from where you're sitting. Nope. It's going to go that way. That's got to go that way. Okay. It's this one that's wrong, isn't it? It's got to go this way. There we are. Live and learn. I just dropped a pin. Hang on a sec while I find that. Got it. And I am indeed going to run out of space. However, I see how these greens are going now, so it's not a problem. In terms of mixing them up, all I want to do is not have like ones side by side. That's all I care about. So I'm going to go ahead and start sewing them because there's just 1 row on after that. So here we go. See if there's any comments, because then I'm going to strictly keep my mind on the game. Let's see. Luda, I'm working on a quilt for me. It's a Barn Stars sampler. I'm doing different colors than in the book on a gray background, and I'm adding 8 inches to the width. 70 blocks of different sizes. Wow, I'm so impressed. Karen, I got the binding attached to the front of my quilt via my long arm. Meanwhile, the ladies I was to meet to finish the binding just canceled. On to piecing my cousin's Harrisonburg quilt. There you go. Good deal. And Karen is asking, is anyone else doing Bonnie Hunter's mystery quilt? That begins in November. I have done Bonnie's mystery quilt a couple of years, but I wasn't planning on doing it this year. That was one. Two. That's not right. You guys saw that one too, didn't you? Did I just put it on the wrong side? I did. Oh my goodness. That's hard to do. I managed it. I'll bucket. Okay, measure twice, cut once. This was the upper one. Cutting those little tabs off really helps because they fit beautifully together, the pieces. You don't have to guess at where the 1/4 inch is crossing the tippy tip of it. Beautiful. It's already coming together. Well, I'm thankful it was just the tiny strips that I cut backwards. And also that I know I have enough fabric to cut more of them. So that'll be all right. Let's just do this next. This is another fabric that I've had for a long time. Sometimes you get weary of using the same fabric over and over again in quilts, am I right? Do you ever feel that way? Just the other day I was looking at my stash again thinking, you know, seeing things that I've used for backings or, you know, a green that I've used in several quilts before and thinking, gosh, I would like to swap stash with somebody and just have some different choices for a while. A lot of my quilts are scrappy, and so that just tends to happen. I have greens that I'm reusing or reds that I'm reusing, and I use the same ones repeatedly. Did I sew the wrong piece on there? This one goes up here. That's why, the green one. Got it. I made a note of which bottom corner was which. A mental note. I just forgot there for half a second. If I was doing this again, I would just alternate pieces. It gives you the advantages of strip piecing, but trying to do 3 of them is a little bit wrapping my head around it. But if I just alternated one and then the other and then the other, I would still never have to break thread, but I wouldn't lose track of where I was. Oops, I pressed that one closed again. That's that one. Let's do this first. I do love it when you keep building the block and everything keeps fitting perfectly. I'm like, yay, win! I've got 1/4 inch seams, I know I do. That's that one. See what I mean when I say these go together kind of like a log cabin. Just fitting one over the other. This one slotted in. Okay. Next piece. This is my new number 8. Clearly I need to make some more. Okay. And this goes on here. I'm going to pull this one off while I finish deciding what greens go where. I may have cut these big ones all the same fabric, and I don't know if that's the right thing, and I don't know why I did that. Quite honestly, isn't that cool though? Like, look at how flat that is on the back. I love it. I love it. I love it. Oh no, I cut all different fabrics. Great. I mean, the same fabric that was in the center. And lastly, number 9. Nope, just the right way. This one goes on there. This one goes on there. And this one goes on there. All right. I'm just scrolling back through the comments for a sec. Jennifer, I'm trying to finish up a seasonal table runner set as a Christmas gift. Luda, the quilt I'm working on is 20 different star block patterns. Hope to finish by spring and looking forward to quilting it after I take spring masterclass. Awesome, with me, I hope. Okay, Nita, thanks for sharing the Krista's pattern with us. I ordered the digital version, now digging through my stash. What will you use as backing? I don't know yet, Nita. I haven't firmly decided. I suspect I'm going to go with something red just because it's such a statement in the back. And sometimes I like to finish a quilt and see it sort of all together before I decide. Do I want to go with, party in the back, big floral, or might I want to go with one of these pretty reds like a cuddle or minky type fabric? Not 100% sure on that one. Patricia's asking, what pattern are you doing? Let me show it one more time, Patricia. It is called Crimson Christmas, and it's by Krista Moser of The Quilted Life. She knows I'm doing this, by the way, tonight. I did get her a go-ahead on that. It's a great pattern. It's so contemporary in many ways, so unusual, these big graphic poinsettias. I'm just so looking forward to having this on my couch. Mary Ellen, I just finished watching my 6-year-old granddaughter teach her papa how to sew. Love it. Okay, I was trying to add that to the broadcast. There it is. Karen, a friend from Guild liked my use of vintage fabric in my scrappy top. The fabrics weren't vintage when I bought them. I get what you're saying there. Yes, I do. And someone, DD, is commenting on the Bernina feet. Yes. A few others in here were schooling me about that, so I appreciate that. There is tons I do not know about sewing machines and sergers, especially the fancy ones and their features. Ask me about my long arm and I'm a lot better suited to know the things. That one goes there. Got to keep them right. Got to keep them in the right place, the right order. These leaves are super cool. I love them. And truly, I am so enjoying just sewing with you guys. No particular expectations. Certainly no expectation on your part that I'll know about my sewing machine, right? Yeah, just an evening of low stress sewing. So good. Where did I set my little clip? Right there. Sandra is saying if you put needle down and in fabric when you start, you have less chance of nesting. Just a tip. It's working pretty well to do either the leader ender or just coming off of one seam into another one. That's why I like strip piecing so much, honestly, because it enables you to do that. I find that when you have an automatic thread cutter and it cuts really short tails, you get a lot of nesting. So you got to find another workaround to that. Keep setting down my clip exactly where I can't see it. Isn't that gorgeous on the back even? Just love it. And they are still fitting perfectly together with all the clipped little dog ears. Sandra's saying, love that bee quilt on your wall. Going to start that one next. Was it easy? Yes, in the sense that there's no Y seams or complicated piecing. I do remember the first time I made that one, and I've made it a few times. I put like the 6 sections of my bee, it seems like I put together not quite right. So I guess my key is really follow Krista's pattern step by step. Read twice, rip out less often, is what I'm saying. Isn't that gorgeous? Love it. Love it, love it. My greens are definitely more olivey, a little more yellow tone than it looks like Krista's are in the pattern. And I was a little bit unsure about that, and frankly, I won't know 100% if I was successful until the quilt is finished. But what I tried to do with both this and my choices of reds is to set all the fabrics side by side and look at them as a whole. Like, do they play together well? Krista calls the one poinsettia red and the one mauve. And in the printed pictures of her, the pinker one, it does have those pinky purpley tones. I didn't really have those colors in my reds. So I did lean toward more pink. And then I thought these greens suited well. So that's what I chose to do, is what I had. Time will tell if I did exactly the right thing or not. But anyway, my quilt will not look like anybody else's, and that's a fact. Boom, we have 3 leaves. 1, 2, and 3. And they look as nice on the back. Oh, that one's got a puckered seam. Let's fix that. There we go. Now they look as nice on the back as they do on the front. Okay, now here's my question, you guys, and I'm just going to try this right in front of you because I'm crazy. I want to see if I can do an exact mirror. So instead of going left, right, I go right, left, if it'll work with these pieces. I don't know that it will, but I'm going to try it, by golly. Because I'd kick myself if I went to all the trouble to recut and I realized I could have just done this. Actually, I think it might. Okay, let's arrange them the same way I had them before so I know what's what. The center pieces went like this, and this, and this. Oh, it might work, you guys. I think it will. Okay, so here's Susan going off in left field because this is how I roll. Oh, look at this. Thanks, hon. Mr. Producer brought me a lovely cup of coffee. My happiness is complete. I'll set it well out of the way. Yes, this is Susan making a silk purse, basically. What I saw when I went to assemble my leaves the first time, just so you're clear on what I'm doing here, Krista had mentioned that when you're cutting these simple strips, they need to either point left or point right. And I did that, except I had 2 pieces of fabric folded wrong sides together. So when I pointed left, I was actually getting a mirror image, right? So I've been thinking while I've been sewing and thinking, you know, if I did these left, right, in combining this block, compiling it, what if I go right, left, will those mirror images work? And in fact, it looks like they will. So I am a happy, happy camper. Now we'll see if I can sew them in the right order, because now I've got to like switch that around in my head. So that's all 3 greens represented in all 3 blocks. Good. Now the next one. I'm going to see that's not right. That one is. That one is. How did that happen? I must have cut one single one. Okay, we will have to recut that one. I'm just going to fold it in half for the moment to be a placeholder, and I'll go get me some more green and recut that one. Let's get one more set on here. Actually, let me just go do it right now. I'll be right back, going through the door to get my green scrappy bits from earlier. This is why you save all the scrappy bits until the quilt is fully done. Okay, so let's see which way I went, because that's the wrong way. Let's see if this scrap goes the other way. No, it's the same. So we'll just leave that for the moment. We're going to move our 3 done leaves Where did I put my other done bits? I don't know. There's a spot over here. There we go. Okay. If I look at that one, I say I need the opposite. And it is, for size, to do it this way. Nope, nope, nope. What am I doing wrong? This way. 5.5. Okay. So first off, we'll get the other corner angled the other way, the end. That's truly a scrappy scrap. Let's not confuse ourselves. And now we need a 5.5-inch piece. And we need the tips trimmed off. It is a bit fiddly to trim these tips, but as you saw when I was piecing those leaves, it's really nice when you go to piece and you know exactly where to cross that seam line. You're not guessing over where that 1/4 inch cross is. Okay. Booyah. There it is. All right, and next comes these green ones. That's my scrappy bit that might be useful later. And like we did with the first ones, we'll save the biggest pieces for later because it's going to be too complicated on my ironing board if I put them all there overlapping. Okay, let's see if there's anything interesting because then I've got to head down, sew, and pay attention. Lynn making Christmas gnomes, placemats with Christmas ornaments, blocks down the one side, Saturday early afternoon in New Zealand. So awesome. I hope this is working well for you guys to find a time of day that you can actually join in. It's great. This is an example of a piece where the selvage did not get fully trimmed off, but I'm confident it's all going to get trimmed off in the seam allowance or taken up in the seam allowance. So I didn't worry about trimming that last little schnibble off. You know, I've just had a scary thought. Before I go further with these leaves, I'm just going to look ahead in my pattern and double check. Like it makes one giant diamond and it shouldn't matter which one is stitched first. No, it doesn't. So my overlapping seam allowances are going to go differently, but I'm okay with that. I accept that. It's part of my differentness. And all I had to recut was one little piece. Yay! Beautiful. Need another sip of coffee. I feel like there's a little Christmas cheer in that coffee too. It's delicious. If any of you happen to be watching my Live and Unscripted, so my quilting last Friday, a week ago Friday, I was working on my Qmatic, or my computerized system, on my Bernina Q24. And, you know, I'm very open about those quilting sessions not being lessons, so please don't expect me to know everything. I don't. I just am willing to quilt out in front of everybody. Anyway, sure enough, during the course of the morning, came to light that the digital design I had, it had a stop and start like for every row, and I couldn't for the life of me figure out, you know, what I had sort of done wrong. Anyway, a lovely Bernina owner was online too, and so she found the solution, which was, it was a format of that design intended for quilting only left to right. So if you're a long arm quilter, maybe you know this. There are people's machines who, for whatever reason, whatever little tension issues they're having, only like to stitch from left to right. So pattern designers now are making some of these designs available in that way. And specifically designs that are, they're made in a giant width. So it's not repeating block, 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 block. They're made to be long, and you just trim off the end, so they can make them to do every row separate. So all that to say, just another instance of like learning on the fly, because clearly that's how I learn. But it was kind of fun because Kristen was the lady who helped me. And, you know, she had that bit of knowledge and was right there and saw me kind of struggling over what do I do differently? What am I missing here? And once I learned that, I realized when I went looking, there are a number of designs that are sold L to R, left to right. So that was something cool that I learned new. And tonight it's the dual feed with every D foot. That's right. That's the one I've got on there. No, 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 no. This one is this one. No, this one. Yes, that one. Whew. Just about got confused. I do have a mental note of what the center tiny piece in the bottom is. This piece. So I know which block is which on my ironing board. One goes down here. Did any of you have an opportunity to go to Houston? I guess last weekend would have been market. This weekend is still festival going on. I've only been once. That was last year. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But it just did not work well with some other things I've got going on to go this year, so. here I am, sewing with you guys instead. This one goes next. Jenny, I'm pulling fabric for mine tonight. Yay! I'm considering changing it up to a monochromatic version in grays, blacks, and whites like an old-time photo. Oh, I think that would look awesome, Jenny. I would love to see that. I feel like that also takes a little bit of confidence in your, your fabric choosing. Could you do the grays, some toward an almost pinky taupe and some towards a cooler gray to get that difference between the poinsettias, perhaps? Just a thought. And Jenny is saying, I like your pressing station. Did you make it yourself? I was talking about this a wee bit earlier, and my husband made it for me, actually. He used two very inexpensive, you can't really see them, but two of the 9 cubicle, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, just really inexpensive, like from department store. And he put a piece of plywood underneath with heavy-duty caster wheels, and then this larger piece of plywood on top, which I have wrapped in batting and fabric. And then every so often, I just strip that off and put a fresh piece of fabric on it. So super easy, super inexpensive. I love having something with straight edges when I'm making quilts, as opposed to an ironing board, which was definitely designed for garment makers, not quilt makers. Yeah, Jenny, it's going to be good, but need to consider background carefully. Yes, it will all have to do with contrast, right? That's how you will make the thing show up. I'm just really curious to see that. I think that's a great idea. Make sure and share it with Krista too, because she will appreciate that as well, I'm sure. I'm just so tickled that these little mirror images are working out. Because I realize if it hadn't worked, I would have actually had to recut all my greens, because I did the same thing for all of them. I just got so carried away in my cutting, I wasn't really thinking I need to cut every one of these right side up. And I cut half of them mirror imaged. Angela Robichaux, I'm currently visiting family on the East Coast. I miss sewing. I'm knitting instead. I love knitting too. Also a great occupation, and honestly easier to do in the living room with the fam. That one. I have one English paper piece project going. It's been going for a long, long time. I keep thinking I should love doing that, but I don't. And part of what it is in the last, I don't know, 5 years or so, my eyesight has changed so much. And I've always had really great vision. And now I have to either wear contacts or glasses, particularly to see close work. And so even with my glasses on, it's harder for me to see. I don't know, that just makes it not as enjoyable to sit at my couch and do hand stitching. That's just my story. Patricia, this has been really helpful, which was a side benefit that I didn't intend. I actually got some stitching done, finished the borders of the wedding quilt, just need to quilt. Even got about half the blocks done for the lap quilt. Awesome. Glad I could be helpful. I'm getting lots done too. This is so fun. Let me scroll back a smidge. I asked about Houston and then I didn't actually see answers. Someone's asking, Jenny's asking, what are you knitting, Angela? Oh, I'm knitting, I love this, I'm knitting socks for my great nephew. Dave's sister is a great one for knitting socks. She has knit many, many socks over the years. How does turning a heel go for you? Okay, on to the next green. So this one is the same as what was in the center, like that, and this will be my lower one. And then that one, that one, that one. And I think once I get these leaves done, I'll probably call it quits for tonight. So if you have any more comments you want to make, any more Bernina features you want to tell me about before we go, this is your opportunity. I'll do a quick recap before we go of the equipment I'm using, the pattern I'm doing, etc. In case anyone just tuned in, I would so appreciate too if you are enjoying this, if you give it a thumbs up, like and subscribe, click the notification bell, all those things. I did reach a small milestone this week, 20,000 followers on my YouTube channel, which, you know, in YouTube world is not very many, but I feel like in the quilting world, it's pretty cool to have that many people in my community. So thank you all for being here. Many of you who are here tonight are regulars. Oh, I keep catching a seam and flipping it up. No, that is this one. Yes. So while I'm stitching, the table that I'm stitching at is by Horn of America. And not only does it have some lovely drawer and magnetic corners storage, but it also has a hydraulic lift, which is what enables me to have it this high and stitch while I'm standing up. And I love sewing that way. I do lower it, like when I'm putting a binding on a big quilt and I want half of it to rest in my lap or a chair beside me or something like that. But generally speaking, when I'm sewing, I love it. I love being able to move around. I just love it. I'd much rather be on my feet than sitting down on a chair. So yeah, it is courtesy, the table is courtesy of Stitch House in Richardson, Texas. And actually, if any of you watching happen to be local to there, I'll be teaching there in November. Oh gosh, now I'm going from memory. I believe it's the 14th and 15th. It's a Friday and Saturday anyway. Teaching at Long Arms there. So if you happen to be local or nearby there and want to explore that, then check out Stitch House on their website. They have a class schedule and events, and it will certainly, all the details will be there. I would love to see you there. And my super steamy iron is by Laura Star. And what you can't see below me is this little lift canister. So it holds a fair bit of water, and it has this kind of, I know they have a technical term for it, which I don't really know, but it's kind of a dual steam. It creates steam in this hose and then in the iron. So what you get is this steam that you're seeing, but it's super, super fine. So I'm not getting droplets of wet on my piecing. And just that volume of steam, it's so, so good at setting a seam and creating it beautifully flat. I do love it. And again, that is Laura Star. And I'm sewing on my trusty Bernina 770 QE. Now, I'll be honest, this machine I don't actually own. Bernina loaned it to me to use. So I've had fun getting acquainted with it, but as you've seen this evening, there's lots and lots and lots I don't know about it, simply because I don't sew as much as I long arm anymore. And it takes me a while to get acquainted with the new machine. There are our leaves, pretty front and back. Boom. So let's just look at the others and see what you guys think about the fact that 3 of them are mirrored. Like, is anybody going to know or care when it gets to my quilt? That's what the 2 mirrored leaves look like. So, I'm content. That's all that really matters, am I right? Because once I realized that I had cut all the greens with the mirror images like that, I would not have had enough green to recut. So then I would have been trotting off to the store. At least one of these greens I went and bought. So, so that would be a nuisance. So I'm content with the mirror images. Yes, I am. Boom, just like that. All right, 6 leaves are done. All right, let's get a sip of coffee and see what you guys have to say. Marilyn, during this entire live show, I figured out one block of next year's Halloween attic windows from a panel. Well, you are getting ahead of the game because yesterday was just Halloween, right? Yes, Jennifer Goodman as Bob Ross, the painter, always said, a happy little accident. Yes, I'm agreeing. Sandra's wondering what I'm piecing. I'll show this one more time because this is important. Crimson Christmas is the name of the quilt. It is by Krista Moser, The Quilted Life. And she knows I'm doing this tonight, so it's a fun way to show off her pattern. It is a brand new pattern, and she is hosting a quilt along for it, or a sew along, I guess is more accurate, starting the 5th of November. So if you're interested in making one, nip over to her website. So again, Krista Moser, Krista, The Quilted Life. And there's lots of information there. She had a kit available. I think it might be sold out, but it might be worth having a look. I had some red fabrics on hand and some greens, and so I raided my stash and then just buffed it up a little bit with a few additions and called it good. So mine's gonna look different from everybody else's. That's what I love about grabbing things from my stash. It's always unique to me. Okay. Luda, I just love to watch live. Thanks for sharing. And Sandra, yep, I showed you the pattern. Jan, do you know about the hover options on the 800 and 700 models? Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Jan, but I think I have the hover option on, meaning when I let my foot off the gas, the presser foot lifts up just a tiny bit, so I'm able to pivot or move things, and then it goes down again when I want to start sewing. Is that what you mean? Because if so, I do have that turned on, yes. Nita, before ending, will you hold up what you've sewn tonight so we can see? Well, I did show the leaves a little bit. And did I show the diamonds earlier? I mean, this is just the teeny tiny center so far of the coming poinsettias. It's going to take a little time to build them, but over the next couple weeks I'll be working on it and hopefully have this quilt all finished to have on my family couch well before Christmas Day. That's the plan. Okay, Nita is saying if you want a hydraulic lift table, there are a few under $300 on Amazon. Probably true. You know, the beauty of this one is the cutout portion for my machine. You know, I know Horn of America tables are not inexpensive either, but I was fortunate to have this deal with a quilting shop. But that is one of the beauties, is it's got the big cutout for the machine, and then when you order the table, you can order the perfect fit for your model of machine, the acrylic like extender. So it just absolutely fits, and I've got a lovely smooth working surface. Maybe you've got a crafty guy in your family that can do that for you, but that's beyond our skill set, let me tell you. And then of course I've got various storage options and things like that with it too. But I do absolutely love, it's like a sit-stand desk, right? I love standing up to sew. It just, to me, feels so much better. And really, Nita, that's all I have to show you. Like, that's all there is pieces so far, units. This is the biggest piece by far and away, the leaves. So it'll come together. So one last look at the pattern. Crimson Christmas, Krista Moser, absolutely genius pattern designer. Thanks you guys for joining me. It's been really, really fun to sit and sew with you and chat a little bit and hear about your projects as well. So we'll do it again sometime. Till then, see you later.